This is Deborah Yah with Black Education TV. Well, family, I know many of you don't like to watch slave movies and, anything that reminds you of our captivity. You kind of frown upon it and you think it's worthless and useless to do so. Shows like Underground, movies like 12 Years a Slave and Amistad and Roots and other movies that depict us as slaves and show the torture and the evil that was done to us. Many of you can't handle that. It stirs up sore pain, not per se memories, because our ancestors are the ones who went through these things, but it stirs up some very, very difficult emotions that we have to deal with. It's because we're witnessing and we're looking at our people being tortured, okay? But, well, this is my take on the whole thing. I really think it's very important that we do watch these shows, because what it does is it actually helps our minds to understand the nature of the people we are dealing with. Because that nature is still there. And many of us don't want to believe that it's still there. We want to believe that things have changed and that they no longer feel this way. As we were watching a slave show yesterday from the internet, they were showing just how cold even the women were. You would think that it was all the male, all the white slave master male. No. It was the women too. They were very cold and callous. They cared nothing about your family, your children, your husband, you. They were showing how this one woman was trying to convince a black woman to tell on her husband about where he had run off to. And they promised her freedom for herself and her daughter if she would open her mouth. And she said, "What about my husband?" She says, "Well, my husband needs his pound of flesh. So just think about your child. Think about your child. Forget about him." And I said to myself, these people are cold as I don't know what. They gave her a choice. Save you and your child and forget about your husband, because my husband, the slave master, needs his pound of flesh. You see how cold they were? And then she says, "And I need to get back to my nursery so I can have my baby." Now, is that a person who you think could even give birth to anything that's compassionate? I know some of you think that they're repentant today because they pat you on top of your head and give you a couple of Negro snacks and make you feel good about yourself, giving you a couple of kind words, howdy doody. I'm sorry, family. I know you don't like the sarcasm, but it is getting very frustrating to watch our people still bow our heads in reverence to people who did the kind of things that were done to our ancestors. And you are spitting out that same narrative. Well, that was a long time ago. It didn't happen to me. It happened to my great-great-grandmother. Well, that was then. This is now. When I hear our people speak like that, you are showing nothing but disrespect for your ancestors who did go through these things. They showed a scene where a young woman was running through the woods, such as you see here. And it's funny, we were just talking about that when my husband and my son and one of our neighbors got lost in the woods. How my son took off running through the woods because he was getting frustrated after being in there for so long. He wanted out. So he was running through bushes that had thorns and were scratching his arms. He says, "Look, I just want to get out of here." And we were just talking about that. And we saw a scene where a young woman during slavery days was running through the woods and her body was being cut up by the thorns, the thorny bushes that she had fallen into. These are the things that our people had to endure. And how dare we sit back in support of burying that history just so we can be comfortable and not have to think about it. That's all that is. You don't want those days to return. But what you don't understand is those days never left. They just changed the rules of the game. And they hid it under all of their legalities. And so now they have the prison system, in which I just recently spoke about how they are expanding the school to prison pipeline by making it a felony for your child, your little child, your baby, to get into a fight on school grounds. So now they're like, look, we need our pound of flesh again. We're not getting them fast enough in our prison system. So what we need to do is turn up the heat. We're going to reach younger and younger, because remember, back in the day, our ancestors had little slave nigglets. That's what they used to call us. They used to call us all kinds of things, family. And so they remember those days through their ancestors' loins when they had 6, 7, and 8, 9, and 10-year-olds in their care as little slaves. And so they're saying now, because we're not getting them fast enough, because we're not filling up the prisons fast enough, we are changing the game. It will be a felony in the state of Missouri if a child gets into a fight at school. It's going to be a felony. You see, that's going to be a record that's going to follow them. And I'm sure it won't say got into a fight at age 10. It's probably going to say felony for assault. It's going to sound horrible. And they may not even show the age. So when that child gets 20 years old, it's just going to say assault, probably. It's probably just going to say assault. Felony assault. And they won't say anything about the age, because this is how these people are. This is why I'm saying you need to study their nature. How can you study their nature if you want to forget about the past? You look at the past to see what you're dealing with today. And for all of you so-called black people who just want to believe what you want to believe, have at it. But please stay away from the rest of us who want to wake up. Stay away from those who are seeking the truth and knowledge and understanding of who and what we are dealing with. This stuff is not going away. There's a day of redemption for us, but until then, we need to understand what we are up against so that we know how to pray and travail before the Most High in dealing with our enemies. Okay? Well, family, I think I have said enough, hopefully, to spark your hunger and desire to learn more about the past and what has happened in this wicked nation to our people at the hands of people that you all have chosen to love and forgive. Think about these things. Study these things. Don't hide it from your children. Hiding it from them is not going to change what happened in the past. And it's not going to change the outcome of the hearts and minds of the people that we are, I hate to say it, still under the captivity of. We are still in the land of our captivity, family. Get that through your head. And with that, I will say shalom to my people.